Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Jersey Shore podcast. That's SURE because we are always sure. Brought to you by the great America's Pulse Network. So tonight, for this podcast, I'm going to hit you with some breaking news before I get to my monologue. I have a very good episode, very patriotic, and we're going to talk about Flag Day and the Army. But first, I got to hit this breaking news. So before I get to it, I want to play this clip.
Moments ago, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. For decades, the tyrants of Tehran have brazenly, openly called for Israel's destruction. They've backed up their genocidal rhetoric with a program to develop nuclear weapons. In recent years, Iran has produced enough highly enriched uranium for 9 atom bombs. 9. In recent months, Iran has taken steps that it has never taken before, steps to weaponize this enriched uranium. And if not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year. This is a clear and present danger to Israel's very survival. 80 years ago, the Jewish people were the victims of a Holocaust perpetrated by the Nazi regime. Today, the Jewish state refuses to be a victim of a nuclear Holocaust perpetrated by the Iranian regime. Now, as Prime Minister, I've made it clear time and again, Israel will never allow those who call for our annihilation to develop the means to achieve that goal. Tonight, Israel backs those words with action. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear enrichment program. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear weaponization program. We targeted Iran's main enrichment facility in Natanz. We targeted Iran's leading nuclear scientists working on the Iranian bomb. We also struck at the heart of Iran's ballistic missile program. Last year, Iran fired 300 ballistic missiles at Israel. Each of these missiles carries a ton of explosives and threatens the lives of hundreds of people. Soon, those missiles could carry a nuclear payload, threatening the lives not of hundreds, but of millions. Iran is gearing up to produce 10,000 of those ballistic missiles within 3 years. Now just imagine 10,000 tons of TNT landing on a country the size of New Jersey.
See, that one right there kind of hits home for me because I live in New Jersey, and this is the Jersey Shore podcast. Now, again, I want to talk about something very nice, something patriotic, keep it positive, but I have to hit the breaking news. And is this unfortunate that this has to happen? It is, but it was necessary. If you think about it, what he just said, think about Israel the size of the state of New Jersey, surrounded by enemies, and Iran, the regime from Iran, openly say they want to destroy Israel, and that was their goal. And they're trying to develop a nuclear weapon. So they have to be preemptive. They have to take care of it. Donald Trump, I would say, playing 4D chess right now, keeping America out of it, but involved. I mean, when I was on my radio show yesterday, I was going to talk about it and say, I didn't know it happened yet because it didn't. And I knew that they were removing people from embassies, over there because there was something that was going to happen. And then when I got home from the show, I saw it on the news. And so it had to happen. And even as Trump said, Iran could never have a nuclear weapon. And the reason why is because bad actors can have nuclear weapons. Good actors shouldn't have nuclear weapons. I think the world understands that now, that no one should have them. But the ones that have them still do. They're not going to get rid of them because the other ones won't either. So, but the whole point is the ones that have them right now realize that they can't be used, and they just keep them to stop other people from invading them. But someone like Iran, well, not Iran, not the people so much, but that regime that was in power, they openly call for death to America, death to Israel, and they would wipe them out. So you have to be preemptive, and you cannot allow someone like that to have a nuclear weapon. At this point, you can't, any country that does not have a nuclear weapon should not be able to develop one. And it's as simple as that, because it'd be great if we can get rid of all of them. It's not going to happen. I don't see an off-ramp to that, but it'd be nice if there was, but it's never going to happen at this point. But where we're at right now, no one that doesn't have a nuclear weapon shouldn't be able to produce one. So that's where we're at with that. I stand by Israel with this, and I think any country should, because for the reason I just said. But for now, like I said, I want to keep it positive, so I will go on to what this episode is about, and I want to keep it positive. So, today, we honor Flag Day. Well, not today, but tonight I am. And a day where we don't just celebrate a piece of cloth, but everything it represents: freedom, resilience, and the undying spirit of the American people. But this year's celebration carries even more weight because it also marks 250 years of the United States Army, a quarter of a millennium of service, sacrifice, and courage. The accomplishments of our Army didn't come easy. Every step forward came with a price paid in sweat, struggle, and the blood of patriots who believed in something greater than themselves. From the fields of Yorktown to the beaches of Normandy, from Korea to Kuwait, and in countless missions to protect innocent lives across the globe, the U.S. Army has been a force of good, standing firm against tyranny and facing down evil regimes that threaten freedom. One I kind of just talked about, that evil regime. It didn't just protect our borders. It helped build the greatest nation on the planet, not by conquest, but by courage. So today, when you see that flag waving, know that it's more than stars and stripes. It's a promise. And that promise has been kept for 250 years by men and women who wore the uniform with absolute pride. So we're going to get into our first segment. I think it's a pretty good one. I like it a lot. And our first segment is the birth and survival of a nation. But before I do that, well, not before, when I get into the segment, I'm going to introduce a very special guest. Her name is Elena Barbera from The Beast Mother. I was just on her podcast. Now she's going to be joining mine. There she is. Hello, Elena. How are you?
Hello, Damon.
All right. Well, thank you. It's been a busy night. So
yeah.
So thanks for having me on your show, which was good. We had a lot of fun with that. Now, what was the sign again? What did you call it again? At the end of the week with the shitty people of the week, pretty much.
My
shit list. Yeah, shit list. That's what it was. Shit list. Yes, I wanted to put it up. I didn't know if you had it with you, but I loved it. It was great. So everybody go check that out. It was a good podcast. So we talked about some good stuff and had some fun with it as well. But Elena, welcome to Jersey Shore Podcast. So what do you think about what's coming up? Well, how about first? My producer put this great AI picture together of the history of the Army, and it looks pretty good. He's going to put it up now, so check it out. It looks pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool.
So basically, in this segment, the birth and survival of a great nation. So I'm just going to go over like the first 100 years, and then we'll talk about the second 100 years, and then the last 50. So the key accomplishments of Revolutionary War. Number one, that's what started this nation. So I'm from Philadelphia originally. I lived right by the Liberty Bell. I know a lot about it. I actually built the Constitution Center. Well, I called it the new one, but I built it when I was like 19. I was a part of that project. So it's kind of cool background to be a part of basically where, the U.S. started. So I know you're originally from Boston.
No, I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, but I did live a lot of my adult life, 23 years in Boston. So I have a lot of cradle of the American Revolution live in.
Have you ever been to Philadelphia? Seen Liberty Bell?
I have.
Oh, okay, yeah. Cool.
Of course.
Yeah, it was a class trip. We always used to go there and see Liberty Bell, and they'd talk about the history of the nation, and it was actually kind of cool. Like it wasn't like a nerdy thing to do. It was like the cool thing to do. People actually, they used to teach that in school and used to like, wow, George Washington, this is how our nation started. And not that we've gotten so far from that, but we're starting to get away from that. And
yeah, I think we're further away from it than I'd like to be. There's a disdain for the founding fathers and no regard for the fact that humanity's best shot at living in freedom has always been, the nation that they founded, and we owe it all to them. Yeah,
I mean, we definitely do. I mean, just imagine when 1775, the Continental Congress, they formed their first army, and we talked about it before. George Washington I mean, who can't love him? Doesn't matter. Like the time that he grew up in, people grow up in different times in different ways, but he took on that role, to be our first commander in chief. And we'll get into him more and more in the end, but there's something astonishing about that. And where we grew from there, the Revolutionary War. And then through there, a lot of people look at the Army back then and now as like the savior of not just this nation, but other nations across the planet, because they didn't go to conquer. They went to help out.
Yeah. Back then, you mean I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying like the first 100 years. We had the Revolutionary War, and then we had the War of 1812.
Yeah.
Then we had the westward expansion, the Army protected frontier, settlements mapped, vast new territory. And then unfortunately, but fortunately, we had the Civil War. Unfortunately, because so many people died in that war, they were all Americans. We were fighting each other.
Yes.
But I believe it was necessary to get our country back on the right track. And I think we've done a good job. Since then, we faltered here and there. There are wars we shouldn't have been involved in, but I don't think it was the Army's fault. They followed orders.
It seems that politically speaking, where my knowledge is that like after World War II is where we kind of went off the rails. We took this military might that we established and then we started getting involved in places that we really didn't need to be involved in. We shouldn't have. And I can't help but wonder if that was the birth of the, corporate, war machine and just the goal to have war just to make money started maybe after World War II, or it appears that way. Because all of our wars before that were for pretty noble causes.
Yeah, they were. And then it did turn the war machine. You do profit from wars. And that's how it has been after World War II. You're correct in that. But men and women that serve, now, of course, are there bad actors that go there? People make, they make bad mistakes. But when you're put in that situation, some people join just to join because they want to kill people. And that's very far and few between. But for the most part, people believe in the American flag. The flag was a symbol. It was a patriotic symbol that it represented you and your family and your community and your state and your country. And it was something that people, it was, I don't know what the word. It was like a mesmerizing thing to look at. Like, wow, that's a cool flag. I want to die for that flag. Because even as a kid, when you're a young child, and you didn't even really know what it was about. When you were in school and you had to say the national anthem, you had to put your hand over your heart or pledge allegiance, and even going to football games. I meant to get into the national anthem. It was like, wow, national anthem's awesome. Pledge allegiance is great. Yeah. And you really didn't know what it was, but you knew it was something special.
You know what? The thing about the national anthem, I always loved it. It always brought tears to my eyes. When I hear it now, and when I see, whether I'm live someplace that it's being sung, or even if I see it at an event, I feel sad when I hear it. It used to just be like love and pride, and I still have the love and the pride, but I also feel a sadness. It almost like is a feeling of remembering somebody I loved who's gone, who died, because this country is so injured right now, and there's such a lack of patriotism in half the country, and that it breaks my heart. It hurts me that we don't have the unity around the flag anymore. And I hope that, conversations like this one, where you're trying to point out the wonderful, positive things about America, will kind of reignite that for people, because I miss it. I really do.
I miss it too, because America used to see the Army as like the guardians of freedom, the backbone of national identity. And that was their national identity, not identity politics, nothing like that. And that's what they used to see it as. And I hope that people start to see it again. It actually, it hurts me when I see in California, where you see every other nation's flag except the American flag. The only time you see the American flag is the one burning on the ground. And it does sadden me too. But I have faith that the American people the ones that are true patriots, will stand behind the American flag, and we'll get there again. We will. I think we will. And tomorrow we're going to celebrate it, and tonight we're going to talk about it. That's the most important thing. And like I said, our podcast can go as negative as possible, because there's too many things negative to talk about. Just trying to put a positive spin. I'm trying to do it like
it's an effort, though, isn't it? Like, because there's so much negativity around us that I want to be positive and I enjoy this, but it is like almost like, bucking the habit that we've gotten into,
I know.
podcasters, of talking about the news and and all the horrible things that are happening. But there's still so much to love here.
There really is. I mean, and I was talking to my producer. His name is Damon too. He's on the back end of this because people get confused when I call him Damon. They're like, "You're talking to yourself." So, but no, but he was he served as well, and he's a great guy. And I was talking about it. I said, in our podcast all the time, we talk about negative stuff, but we talk about how to make it positive, and we point out like this is bad for our country. We should get back to what is good. And I was like, I just, it's been like eating away at my soul. Literally, it has been. And I just say, I just want to like do a few podcasts in a row that I want to talk about something good. And then there's always like a breaking news. Like the last podcast I went to, that's when the riot just started. I had this financial guy come on, and he was going to just talk about, good stuff, how to get yourself financially in a good spot, your family and everything else. And we're just going to stay away from politics for a second and just go with that. And then boom, the riots hit. I'm like, I have to talk about this because it's breaking news. He's like, no problem. Go ahead. He said, I can't stand it myself. He was a Patriot. He's like, go ahead. He waited for like 10 minutes for it to come on. But it was like, okay, well, I really wanted to go positive, but I had to hit that negative before I came on. And so that's why, when you offered me to come on your podcast, Earl, I'm like, sure. You want to do something positive, have a little bit of fun, talk about some bad things that are happening, but a funny thing, but keep it positive.
I try to keep it like almost like, a little bit light with the name of the episode, calling it, the list. Yeah. Trying to put some humor into darkness, because I mean, me, I spend all my time thinking about all the stuff that's happening with children. So, me talking about politics is actually lightening it up.
Yeah. You're right about that. My blood was boiling for a moment there. We had to get ourselves out of that.
But it's interesting because to go back to where you started with the founding fathers, we're trying to have this conversation about them that's positive, but they were in extreme turmoil and frustration. And, I mean, imagine being in the situation of taking on England. Yeah. And I mean, they were facing this was a David and Goliath situation, and they were facing some of the strongest enemy they possibly could on earth, and plotting and planning on how to overcome them, and they did. These were not easy times. They weren't positive times. They created the amazing America that you and I got to grow up in. But that was tough. Had to be. I can't even imagine. And no electricity, no penicillin. Like what? No morphine.
No laptops, no podcast.
Yeah.
No cell phones. All that stuff. But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, there were way tougher times that we ever had. Not somebody that says that somebody misgendered me. Oh my God, the world's going to end. They misgendered me. Like, really? Imagine going back to those days. And that's what really creates things. They were. When you go through those struggles and you're faced, with those adversities, that's what makes character on people. You have to face true adversity. And I'm not saying I've faced true adversity. Any adversity I ever faced was basically anything I put myself involved with, my own mistakes. I mean, there were people that tried to put me down, but I'm like, okay, get away from me. I'm just going to keep moving forward. It didn't bother me. And there are some people it bothers in a way that they shouldn't be bothered. It's like, all right, somebody called you something that you want to be called. What happened to sticks and stones may break my bones, but names never hurt me. But that's where we're at today, and it's all that. But if you go back to, like, imagine, just think about what the soldiers were thinking when they stormed base Normandy, when they were on the ships and they knew as soon as the gates fell down that they were just going to be annihilated, but they still pushed forward. And that was the turning point in the war where we're going to win the war. I mean, that takes true courage. I couldn't imagine being in that situation. And they fought through it. And even the people that survived and came home were damaged for life. But we owe that to them. We owe that love to them, and say thank you very much for what you have done to give me what I have today.
Yeah, and we owe it to them to uphold it.
Yeah.
To keep the fight going, for the rights that they fought for and the freedom that we have, and that sadly we took for granted as a country. Yeah,
no, we definitely have. And I just want to go. I mean, we'll move on to yeah. Well, we'll go to all the way. We have the Civil War. I'm looking at my cheat sheet here because my history is good, and I'll go back to it. But I just want to go over the wars. I mean, we'll get into the second segment about World War I, World War II, and all that. But it's just, I don't know. I'm actually at a loss for words, so I don't want to talk anything bad. I promise you I wouldn't. But we'll keep going. And you know what? Let's roll on our next segment, and we'll talk about it. I promise you that I will.
All right.
All right.
Welcome to America's Pulse Network. This is APN's very own White House correspondent, Alexandra Levine.
Hello, everyone. This is Alexandra Levine with Alexandra Levine Live on the America's Pulse Network. You are all in with Alexandra Levine. We are still waiting for someone from the White House to come out and tell us what transpired between President Trump and Vladimir Putin on that call today. We are here live at the White House. We're waiting for White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt to come out and tell us about the updates of today, the call between President Trump and Vladimir Putin, what transpired in that call.
Subscribe and follow America's Pulse Network on the above social medias.
All right, so we're back. So I'm going to be honest. I've had a lot of stuff today going on. You know, my big concrete pour, 30 yards of concrete, and then jumping into your podcast, and other stuff going on in the political world. So yeah, it's been a very busy day. So I'm not going to lie. I was a little bit flustered at the moment. I forgot my train of thought and it's stuff. But thank you for helping me out with that. But I want to go on to the second century of what we call. We had World War I, World War II. We had the Korean War, and then even as much as going on to almost a domestic civil rights war. You know, where Eisenhower used the army to enforce desegregation and all that stuff. Proof that the army stands for justice at home too. And they didn't just do that. I mean, at the times, I mean, they would go and they give out relief aid. The hurricanes here, they give out relief aid when you have earthquakes abroad. And the army sent everywhere where they have to go. There's soldiers that are told where to go, what to do. They may not agree with it, but they still obey their commands and they try to do the right thing for the most part. I mean, it's not everyone does the right thing, but it's just the idea of it, the idea of going there to do the right thing. And that's the core value of what the army is supposed to do. That's what it's about. And it doesn't matter if you're in the Army, Navy, or you're a citizen. There's always going to be a bad actor, wherever you are, but it's about the core values of it. And the Army has held those core values, I think, since the beginning of its time. That was the core value of the Army. That's what they teach your soldiers to do, whether there are some bad actors or not. I think for the most part, most of them want to achieve that goal. That's why they join the Army. I mean, I don't know anybody that will really want to join unless they're, drafted or something like that. But why would you want to join the Army for the most part, the majority? Why would you want to join the Army unless you wanted to do something good and save the world, pretty much? Because that's the mentality of most people that I know that have joined.
Right. They want to keep people safe. They want to be protectors. Yes. Mm-hmm. Unless they're going in just to get the free healthcare so they can get their sex change surgery.
Well, there's that too.
Fortunately, that's over now. But
we can do all that.
There are other motives, but yes, there are people who go in because they love their country and they want to serve and protect and uphold the Constitution. Even at the level of being a private in the Army, they go in with that heart for America. A lot of them, everyone I've known has done that.
Yeah, people that I know too. And maybe I'm naive, but I always try to see the good in things because that's what I would want to do. I would never served. I did not. I never really even thought about it. If I was called upon to do so, maybe. I mean, I'm trying to serve in different ways now, but I try to believe that people, think like I do. They want to do things for the greater good, and that's where I'm at with things. But when you look through history and everything they accomplished, whether it was bad things they had to go through to accomplish that, it turned out to be good. I mean, in the end, for the people of the United States, it turned out to be good. So how could you not celebrate that? How could you say, okay, you can watch all the war movies that you've seen, that come on TV. But if you look at it, like Band of Brothers, I mean, that was a great show. I mean, it really was. It just showed a bunch of young kids that got sent over there, and they necessarily didn't want to be there. Some, wanted to join, and they became brothers, and they wanted to fight for their country. And in the end, everything that they did, even though it damaged them, when everyone at home benefited from it. And that's why we should respect that. That's why we should look at that American flag and thank our lucky 50 stars that, that they did that for us.
Yeah. There was a pretty common morality, where the core of the nation's morality was the same, no matter who you were, no matter, what class you were, what race you were. And of course there were, some differences on the fringe, but I think that was what made it easier for us to appreciate what these young men and women did in the past and what they fought for. Now we just don't see things the same at all. I mean, we're talking about, now we're not even talking apples and oranges, we're talking apples and, I don't know, chicken, like two different things altogether. So I don't know how we're going to get back, because I just keep going back to that. Like, I just want us to get back to this place where we have a national pride again. And when Donald Trump won in 2024, we all felt that, for a while, we were all riding high and feeling like we were going to take America back. And it's proving to be an awful lot of work and a big uphill battle, because there's unfortunately so much outside influence in the country now that's infiltrated, our young people. I don't know how we're going to overcome this and get back to it, because we have to celebrate the fact of, the words of the Declaration of Independence, the words of the Constitution, the live free or die, give me liberty or give me death speech that Patrick Henry gave. I mean, all these things that inspire us, insult, other people have been convinced to be insulted by them.
Well, we have to start looking at like the Army used to. The Army used to be looked at. They weren't just uniforms; they were your friends, your neighbors, family. When you used to see someone that enlisted and they will come home. I know people. I know my friends that were always got in trouble, all the time, and they enlisted, or the parents said, "You got to enlist in the Army. You need discipline, son." And they would go, and they would come back, and they were a completely different person because they had discipline, and they were shown discipline, and they were shown like why they should appreciate what they were giving, and they learned that in the Army. They came back a different person because you do have friends, neighbors, family that go over there. And when you see somebody come home from wherever they were stationed or even from a war, you look at their uniform, and it was just like, wow, man, that guy accomplished something. That, in my mind, it was like,
Yes.
I know he went through over there, whether he was in war, went through his training, like it was something that I didn't do, but he did something. He's wearing that uniform right now, and I respected that.
I feel that way to this day. Young Elena and today Elena couldn't have made it through basic training. Just I couldn't, between my spaghetti arms and my personality, I would have been in the brig. And I really love and admire people that have the grit, to just get through basic training, and then never mind all the things that these people accomplish throughout their careers, learning new skills, fighting, even if they have an entire military career that's in peacetime, the tremendous sacrifices that they have to make. They don't get to choose where they want to live. They're dragging their families all around the country. Kids have to start in new schools every couple of years. Every time they make friends, they have to leave them behind. There's so much toughness, emotional, mental toughness that goes into being part of the U.S. military that I admire it. I got to say, and I guess it started right with the founding fathers. I mean, they were the OG tough guys.
Yeah, right, they were. They were. And I'll tell you this: young Damon did not have the mindset to join the Army, not at all. Maybe the physicality of, but not the mindset. Now, old Damon has the mindset, but he's too old, and doesn't have it doesn't have the physicality to do it anymore. I would break under all that stuff. So so I had it once, half of it, and then I have half of it now. But yeah, never a full soldier. And
right, but we can fight in our own way with the skills that we have. Like even though I would have made a terrible soldier just because of my,
Our producer just said, "What? Too old?" What? I'm going to be 44. So in Army terms, he just put it
you
up
little
there.
baby. Yeah. Yes, the Army thinks we're too old, but when you look at the young people in America today, half of them are patriots. Half of the, especially the young men who are really, really turning into more patriotic, conservative-minded young men.
That is great.
They can serve. But the half of that are soy boys and the young men and women who, again, you can't call them you can't tell them anything. You can't tell them that you don't have their oat milk is out at Starbucks. They have a meltdown and they have to post about it on social media. So that when you think of the sheer numbers of people who are fighting worthy, they may raise the age, and you and I may end up in the armed forces. Yet it's not over.
Yeah, no, I don't. I hope that it's not. I believe it won't be, and I think that someone like President Trump has brought that back, and he definitely has. I mean, tell me this: what do you think about Pete Hegseth? I mean, Pete Hegseth. Number one, I would say this: I didn't expect him to be the pick. I mean, I love Pete Hegseth, seen him with Fox. I knew of his service. I knew of his mindset and how he viewed this country, and he seemed like he was a patriot to me. I never expected Trump to pick him for that position, but I was surprised at that, but I love it.
I have mixed feelings. Mostly, I actually really like the guy. I like his story. I like his broken story and how, he's been saved and he's living a really straight and narrow life now. I like his service story that he's received. He has 2 Bronze Stars, I believe 2 Army Commendation Medals. He's been in combat. I don't know what his experience is with military strategy. And I understand that he's surrounded by generals who do have that knowledge. And I just, and Pete's a smart guy. He went to Princeton. He built a great career for himself in the Army National Guard, in public life as a newscaster. I hope that I think he is smart enough to take good advice as the Secretary of Defense from the generals around him who have more decades of military experience. So overall, I'm confident in him, but he is about to be tested, and we're going to find out if he's the right man for the job.
Yeah, he is, and I hope he steps up to the plate. I believe he will, and I'm going to bet on it. I don't know for sure, but I'll bet on it. And I do like him. Like I said, I didn't know he was going to get picked. I was surprised that he got picked. That's what I was getting at. I was surprised he was picked because of what you just said. But I do like him, and I think he may have the ability to do it. And I'm going to bet on it myself. But yeah, I mean, you never know who's going to get picked to step up in a certain moment, and you don't know what they're about until they get forced into a position to show their greatness. And with that, I'm going to go to our next segment. We're going to go to the JSP Awards. We're going to talk, which I always do the wrap up at the end of the week. I do the Patriot and Loser of the Week Award, and we'll talk about what I just said, people that didn't know that they were going to be that person. And so we'll get that. That's after this break. Let's go to our next segment.
Alexandra Levine Live, hosted by Alexandra Levine. Jersey Shore Podcast, hosted by Damon Galdo. The Conservative Corner, hosted by Seth Eisenberg. Because the pulse of America beats for God and country, America's Pulse Network is for faith, family, freedom, and truth.
So, Elena, I usually start with the Patriot and end with the loser, but I want to start with the loser of the week, just get him out of the way because he doesn't deserve much time. So let's go to our loser of the week right now.
Losers! 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 Ah, shut up!
So that's Gavin Newsom. He's a loser.
Dear Lord.
And he's screaming, shut up, because he knows he's a loser. He's blaming Trump for everything. So I really don't want to give him too much time, but I'll let you do it. Have at it on Gavin Newsom. Why is he a loser of the week?
Oh, please.
Yeah, I'm not the week, but loser of all time.
Why? Where to begin? I mean, he wants to be president. The year started with his state on fire, and it completely it grew way bigger than it needs to be because of mismanagement of resources under his watch. Okay, and his homelessness crisis, his crime crisis, his missing high speed rail train that he took billions of dollars for. He thinks he's going to be president. He can't. He's standing there behind with everything burning around him, saying, "We've got this under control. We don't need the president. We don't need the National Guard." He's lying and saying that the National Guard, that it's illegal for Trump to bring in the National Guard, which it's not. It is, I believe, Title 10, Section 12406 of the the Army codes. I forget what it's called. And it gives these specific circumstances where you're allowed, the president, not you, me, the president is allowed to bring in the National Guard or as many personnel or units as he sees fit to a situation, with or without the governor's permission. So he has that, and it fits the bill. It was like an invasion. So I see people waving Mexican flags saying this is Mexican land and we're taking it back. I see that as an invasion. Any sort of, major civil unrest. And there was another reason. And all of the things that were going on in California met that bar. So, for him to just be standing there and saying that Trump is making it worse and Trump is doing illegal things, and it just shows what a farce he is. He just wants to keep these illegals in the country so that he can keep congressional seats and he can keep power. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. And we were talking about there was a constitutional lawyer who is not a Trump fan at all, hates Trump. He came out, I forget his name off the top of my head, but he said, no, Trump can absolutely do that. That is federal law. He can bring in National Guard without the governor's, permission when he sees something happening. So someone that hates Trump, known Trump hater, and Damon, I forget the name off the top of my head, but you guys can look it up yourself. But yeah, he said, no, it's lawful what he's doing. And then Newsom, loser of all time in my book, loser of the week. Anyway, you can get it every week, but I got to give it to somebody else. But yeah, I mean, the guy is so fake and phony. He doesn't care about anybody but himself, no one else but himself. And that's what it is. And I was a little harsh last on the Pulse. I know you missed it this week for reasons, but I got to a point where I'm like, well, how do you save a place like California? I said, do you send National Guard in? Do you invoke the federal force to stop it when their state and local officials won't allow you to come in, or do you just say, you know what, let them go, cut them off? I called California like the drug addict of America. If you ever had a family member that was addicted to drugs or something like that, and you can't enable them over and over again, but you want them to succeed. But there comes a point in time where you have to just cut them off and say, we're not going to pay for you anymore. We're not going to rebuild your buildings. We're going to let you tear everything down, take federal tax dollars from me or you, and just hopefully they hit rock bottom and they build themselves back up, or they just fall off in the Pacific Ocean. It's going to be one or the other. And there has to be a point in time where you have to go through that. Now, I said that kind of joking because I don't want that to happen. I'd rather us go in there and stop it and get people back in order and get everyone that's in that state waving flags, not of our country, they're waving them of their country when they seeking asylum, saying they're persecuted in their country, and that's why they're coming here. And the United States gives them the right to say, I hate the United States and all that stuff, and wave your own flag, even though you really shouldn't be. Well, you can, but I'm just saying, but not while you're destroying the very place that gave you the opportunities to speak bad about it. Speak. but not burn down cop cars, not loot stores, not wave the flag and say, I hate America. If you hate it, go back. And Gavin Newsom's a part of that. And he doesn't care at all. He'll just do whatever he can to stay elected. And that's it.
Absolutely. But the reason that we're in, that we do need to go in is, well, there's a few reasons, but the main one is ICE needs to be able to do its job without being physically attacked.
Well, absolutely.
And harassed. And so, if we're gonna, we should be treating all the states equally. And if we're going to be cleaning out illegal aliens from all other 49 states, then it needs to happen. It needs to be able to happen in California. And so, that's because I've heard people say, "Oh, just let it burn." I'm like, absolutely not. No, we're clean. I love my whole country, and I want to clean that corner up too. I used to live in California in my 20s. I was there for about 7 years, and I loved it. Although even back then, 22 years ago, when my son was born, I said, I got to get him out of here. He was 8 months old when we left because I did not want to raise him to be a California nut. Even back then, they were too much for me. But it's certainly now. I still love it, though. It could be beautiful again. And the fact that they're saying, they need these immigrants. Who's picking the fruit? Who's going to work in the restaurants? You know what? I don't understand. Let that part, I'll say, let it all fall apart. Figure it out. Yeah. And everybody that's been hiring illegals needs to be fined or jailed if that is what the codes call for. I've had enough.
Yeah, no, that's why I was playing devil's advocate with it. What do you do? No, I've had enough too. But if you have their elected officials there saying that there's no riot here, to stay out of it, we're going to handle this. It's like, okay, well, if you're asking for that, at what point do we say, okay, you reap what you sow? Then we don't help you out. And then everyone that lives in the state, and it's a sad thing. Like I said, it's a very sad thing. It's like a family member. You have to cut off. You have to say, I don't want to do this, but I have to, and just cut them off. And then every tax-paying, legal person there, law-abiding citizen, will vote with their feet and leave the state, and then just let what's left over there. And then there'll be an example and say, this is what happens when you act like this. Now, I don't want that to happen at all, but I was just playing devil's advocate. Like, what if we did this? Or what if we just sent the National Guard in, sent the Marines in, and stomped it out, said, no, this is United States of America. You're not going to act like this in United States of America. And then you have the mainstream media saying it's all Trump's fault for the riots. And that's why I said both, two ways. I felt both ways, honestly. It's like, okay, how long are we going to just deal with this? And then turn on the news, mainstream media, which I never watch, only for like 5 seconds, just to hear one stupid comment. I'm like, all right, there we go. But I would see it on YouTube and watch the clips because I want to cut them and say, look at this idiot. But when they talk about it, I'm like, there's no riot here. And you see Maxine Waters saying, she says, shoot me in the face. If you're going to shoot, you better aim. It's like, woman, stop, go away. But it's like, it's almost like, fine, if you want to have it your way, and we'll see how you make out. Hopefully you learn something from it, but you're not going to keep asking us to save you. And when we try to save you, you paint us to be the bad guy and say, it's all your fault. You shouldn't have sent them in to save us. And now we're the bad guy. And I know most Americans aren't buying it, but it's still, the media still sees that narrative out there. And it's like, all right, media, how about you go over there and you join them? You live there, because they don't live there. And it's like Jimmy Kimmel. Oh, it's just like anytime we win a national championship. Okay, well, yeah, I'm from Philadelphia. I've seen them flip over cars, and it was stupid.
Yeah.
I'm an Eagles fan, won a Super Bowl, and I was there. And I see people like trying to flip over a car. I'm like, what are you doing? That's stupid.
Yeah, that's not okay then either.
No, it's not. Again, it's stupid. It's not okay.
I don't know which of the newscasters, it was either CBS or NBC, where they were showing cars burning. And they said, if they send the National Guard in now, it's just going to make it worse. Right now, all it is some people having fun watching cars burning. I don't know if you saw that clip. That was like a mainstream media clip.
Yes, I saw it. Yes, I did.
Right, I'm glad you saw it, because you'd almost be like, nah, she's making that up, right?
No, I saw it. I posted it on social media, and I was like, what?
And I mean, they will try to spin anything to make it sound positive. Like the gaslighting is off the charts. You know, don't believe your own eyes. This is peace, you know, peaceful. The guy and the woman in New York who were blocking the road and wouldn't let that young woman get to work. I don't know if you saw that interaction.
You talked about soy boys before. That was the soy boy there holding his energy drink saying, "Oh, I get to work. Oh, what's about work?" You know, talking about you can't go to work. He's making fun of her. It's like that is when
like condescending, mocking work. Like it was really that's somebody that like it just makes me mad in a way that I don't like. I don't like to feel that kind of anger, that frustration when somebody is that condescending. And it turns out he's like some, you know, trust fund baby, you know, who probably never
had a job
in his life.
Yeah. Well, that brings back, and we'll go to the Patriot, you know, award right after this. But that brings back to what you talked about in your podcast about Ron DeSantis. You know, if they're standing your way. I don't know if you want to touch base on that and just say what he said, or I'll just say it. So you played that clip for DeSantis. I love him as a governor. Wish I lived in Florida. You know, but hopefully New Jersey will be red in November. We're praying. But Elena showed me a clip of Ron DeSantis saying, basically, if you're stuck and people are protesting or violently protesting, or I don't want to call it protest, sorry, violently riding around you, and you're in your vehicle and you feel threatened, they're blocking you, they're coming at your car. If you feel threatened, you can drive your car. I'm not ad-libbing here, but basically, correct me if I'm wrong. He said, if you feel threatened, you can drive your car out of the situation. They have to get out of your way. And if you happen to hit them, it's not your fault.
It's their fault, he said.
Their fault.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. So I love that. And again, it's a deterrent for stupid people. Get out of the way, because you're going to threaten people. They're going to feel threatened. They run you over. We're not going to blame them. We're going to blame you.
Remember that old video of the truck driver who got pulled out of his truck and beaten, like, I don't know if he got killed, beaten to death or beaten, but I'm like, you're in a semi. Like, how did he like that? How did, you know, I guess nobody really thinks that somebody's going to be that people are going to be that crazy and violent, but it happens. So, you know, that only has to I only needed to see that happen once.
Yeah.
To know that is not happening to my family. You know, I'm sorry. I pray I never have to run anybody over, but don't surround my car. You know.
Yeah, you're right. Well, and see, we got sucked into the negativity because we could talk about it all day long because we wanted to change so bad. So let's go.
The positive spin, which is real quick. The positive flip of that is here in Florida, we have the rights to protect ourselves and our family. So that's is that
there you go. Good save. So. But I know we got sucked into it so easily. We're going to talk about our Patriot, George Washington, which coming up. Let's roll the Patriot of the week, of the century. So George Washington, easy pick. You know, great. He was our first commander in chief, and he led our army to our victory, become, you know, the first president. He basically was, you know, the one who got us there and led the army to victory to make us the greatest nation ever. And what I love the most about George Washington is he decided that he was not a king. You know, he led the army, and then they asked him to be the president. And from what I've read in history books, I mean, obviously I didn't know him personally. I'm not that old. So, but no, he did not want to be the president. He wanted to retire after they won the war. So then he said, fine, I'll become the president. He didn't. And then he wanted to turn it over to somebody else afterwards. And they wanted him to, you know, to be the president again, run for election again. And he did not want to. But after, you know, public pressure and everybody loved him, he relented and he said, fine, I'll run again. So after he served his second term, they wanted him to be the president still. And he said, no, I'm not going to do it. And he said, I'm going to turn it over to a civilian government and they can choose the lead. Now, to me, that demands ultimate respect. If you just won the war against a country that you weren't supposed to win it against. You know, they were the complete underdog, And he fought through that battle, led his men to victory, and was part of creating the greatest nation ever. Maybe he knew it then, maybe he didn't, but he just fought that on principle and said, no, it shouldn't be this way. He said, that's why all these other countries are screwed up. That's why that's why they fail. So we just created something different than any other country ever thought of. They wrote, the Declaration of Independence, and it was, and wrote the Constitution. It was something different. Nobody ever knew about this. It's like the people control, who leads them. It wasn't a dictator. It wasn't a bloodline. It was the people voted for him. And he walked away from that power. Now, that's got to be a hard thing to do. I've never been in that position to where, okay, everyone loves you. Everyone wants you to stay in power. We love you. Keep ruling us. Keep leading us. And then he said, no, my time is over. It's time to find somebody else. That is the most humbling thing to me ever. And that, I think, is what sparked the greatest nation ever to be on this planet. And I think we need to get back to that. And that's your thoughts.
And he did that not because he wanted to go to Mar-a-Lago and play golf. He did that because he specifically, as you said, did not want this to become anything like a monarchy, have any trace of monarchy in it, and he didn't want to become a king. And I love that about that story. And we are so far from that now, and I think that educating our youth on these things again is going to be really critical. And I don't believe in our public education system. I have become, to my own surprise, a major advocate for homeschooling, because this is the kind of education that kids need, so that they understand the values and the mindset and the morality that went into the shaping of the Constitution and the shaping of the founding fathers and the things they did. Yeah, he was an imperfect person, but when it came to running the country, he did a damn good job, and he really laid a great foundation. So yeah, I'm a fan, and I brought something to show you about George Washington. I don't know if you have a copy of this, but you must get it. It's a very short book, and it is called it's written by George Washington. George Washington's Rules of Civility and Decent Behavior in Company and Conversation. So these are rules for how to conduct yourself like a gentleman or a lady, in my case, in business, in personal matters, and even little things like when you have somebody sleep over your house. If they are above you in stature, they get the master bedroom, they get the best bedroom. If they are below you in stature, then you keep your bedroom, but you still make sure that they're comfortable somewhere. And all these little things about, diplomacy and how to not pick your teeth in company. The man brought a lot to the world.
Well, just think about that, the humility of the guy writing something like that, having something in your home that are above you in stature, giving the master bedroom, and I mean, and that's what I love about the whole situation, because human beings are, we are at fault in many things. We're not perfect. He wasn't a perfect person. There's no such thing as a perfect person, but we have so many flaws. And just imagine that you won this war. You were one of the main reasons why you won this war. And then you led the country, a brand new country, just started. And on human status, you're a god to all these people. And to have godly powers, no, obviously not a god, but I'm saying for humans, that's how I'm a god. All these people love me. He could do whatever he wants, just like a king would. But he said, no, I'm not going to do that. I want to give all these powers away to the people to elect who they think is best to lead them. That is the most selfless thing I've ever. And it's not like it's a story, like a fairy tale. It's what happened.
Well, it's just like what Joe Biden did when he said, I'm going to give up and I'm going to pass.
Sorry. That's how it's like. Sorry,
I didn't even expect to laugh that hard.
No, I appreciate that. Because that's what the left are. It should be. He was our latest George Washington. He gave up the power. No, he didn't. He forgot he had it.
Yeah, how noble it was of him to pass the torch and to a candidate who didn't get a single primary vote. It was so noble. I mean, but and it's funny because they will. Some of them are still hanging on to that and believe that.
I know.
But George Washington, truly, the humility. And like to be so strong and so powerful and so influential, and also to have that kind of humility, to be able to really put the nation above your own interests is something we don't often see in our politicians today.
None of them. I mean, not even Republican politicians.
I think Donald Trump has put his personal life, his actual life, his professional life, all of it on the back burner for the country. I would argue that he has.
I think he definitely has. I mean,
but I would not argue that he's a humble man.
No, he's not. He's not. He doesn't like to lose. That I'm sure that motivated.
Yeah.
That motivated him a lot. He doesn't like to lose, especially somebody like Joe Biden. I think I don't care if I was humble as hell. If I lost to Joe Biden, I'd say no way I'm coming back. But no, he likes to win. But with Trump, if I had his money and everything in his life, even if I won the first term and served it, and knowing that coming back to run again, they were going to try to bankrupt me, try to shame me, throw me in jail, and arrest me, try to kill him. On top of that, I would have thrown in the towel. But like, you know what? I have money. I worked my life. I'm old. I have a family. I have grandkids. I'm rich, and I don't need to do this. They're trying to. They went as far as to kill me. Okay. All right. I don't need this in my life. I just want to enjoy so many years I have left with my family and enjoy my money and all the hard work I've done my entire life to earn that money and keep it. And they're trying to take everything away from me. But no, he didn't. He kept fighting. And I respect him for that. And it's because he did have the mentality he doesn't like to lose. Yeah, of course, that's part of him. And I like that about him. He doesn't like to lose. But that part, I think he would have given up if he didn't love this country. If he loved this country and wanted to do something different. And I respect him for it. And that's why I love Donald Trump. Don't agree with everything he does. He can't agree with everything anybody does. But I mean, everything that he is doing is for the betterment of this country. And
absolutely.
If it leaves him a legacy, which I know he wants, of course, he does have that part about him. He wants to die knowing that he did something good. I mean, hey, listen, when I ran for office, I wanted to do something good. I wanted to change something. I had good intentions to do it, and I still do. I want to keep going with different things. But I had good intentions. But in the end, when I die, do I want my children to say, my dad fought his hardest and he made some change in the end for the betterment of our future? I will die a happy man knowing that my children think that of me. Yeah. And I think Donald Trump thinks about that, not just of his children, but everybody else. I said, you want to go down the history books? Sure. If I go down the history books, why not? If I could, but it's never going to happen. But still, at least if my children knew I fought and did everything I could to create a better future for them, I'll die a happy man.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, for me, it's a little bit more. It's a little bit more about God and saying thinking I want to fight for truth. I want to fight for protecting the innocent. And when I get to heaven, I want Jesus to say, like, you well done, you tried. Even if, whether or not I succeeded, like, well done, man. You fought a good fight for the right reasons. That's what I want. And so that's why we're here, right? That's why we have our podcast and we're trying to get the word out. And that's why also Donald Trump is doing that amazing parade tomorrow that I'm not going to be in DC for, because I don't go anywhere where there are large crowds anymore because people are insane. Sorry, I went negative. But I'm going to be watching, and I'm going to be thrilled that we have a president who loves our country again. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it is cool.
I'm excited.
But all right, Elena. So, real quick, I want to go. We're going to end the segment, end the podcast here. But I want to go into the GoFundMe for Seth, and then I want you to talk about where to find you. So, this is a GoFundMe for Seth Eisenberg. It says Jonah, but it says Seth Eisenberg, Conservative Corner. He went through a lot of hard times major surgeries on his foot and everything else. I don't know if you saw his coming back episode, and you do want to watch it, but just close your eyes when he shows his foot. It's horrific, and all the stuff he had to go through. But he's a really good guy, and he's trying to do good things. He's a veteran, and hospital bills are pouring in, and he's just getting back to work, just getting himself back on his feet, and he's a really good guy. And trust me, he hates when we do this. He doesn't like ask for money. Nobody does. But we're doing it for him because we know he needs it, and he deserves it because he needs the help he can get. And he's genuine. He's great. He's awesome. So if you can go and donate, what doesn't matter. I don't care if it's $1, $2, $5, $10, $20, whatever you can help Seth out. That'd be awesome. So, and then, Elena, I want to go to you. If you want to tell everybody where they can find you, the Base Mother, because I know you are very popular. I know a lot of my listeners love you, especially my harshest critic who worked on my campaign, Arlene. And she's probably listening right now. She's like, I'm so glad Elena's back on. I loved her so much. And I told her you were coming on tonight. She was so excited. I told her, so she's been watching both. But tell people where to find you at.
Thank you. And hi, Arlene, if you're watching. So you can find me at The Based Mother on Twitter, Rumble, Instagram, TikTok. Although the TikTok, I got a new TikTok because they keep taking me down. And so, if you follow me on TikTok, you're probably going to have to follow a new account soon because I keep getting banned. TikTok is not a fan of the truth, but I'd be, I have my podcast on Rumble and YouTube, and would love to, chat with everybody there. Thank you. And thank you for having me. This was this was fun. And it was mostly positive, as you promised, which is something we don't do enough. And I actually am going to take from this, an intention to try to at least be 25% more positive.
Yeah, I just figured we could be, well, it's not like we're being negative. We're just pointing out the negativity. And then I just wanted to take like a breath of fresh air, like a little bit of positive, but we still have to point out the negativity. It's unfortunately we have to show the positivity, but I just needed something like more upbeat, even though it wasn't really that upbeat, but something that was like look forward to. Like, let's get back to just like appreciating something. And that's what I wanted to do. And I've been talking about it for the past like 2 weeks pretty much. And then unfortunately things happened in between and said, oh, here we go. Can we just have like a good week? I was just like, wow, this is great. Look what happened. This is some good stuff. Not somebody ruined it, and a bad actor showed up and burned down cop cars and all this stuff. It's like, no, we want to talk about something good. But so that was my plan. And of course, we'll get back to normal. But I was just trying to breath of fresh air here. And also, just everybody listening to that, you'll see Elena. She's our guest on The Pulse on Wednesdays at 8 o'clock. She's awesome. When we have other podcasters with their guests and hosts. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I have a lot of fun with that show, by the way. I think everybody.
It is so fun. I love that you created a panel show and that you invite me to be a guest because I have a blast. It's a very great, you guys have a great energy and dynamic. Everybody there has got a lot of personality. And if you haven't caught the show, please watch the show. It's good.
Yeah, we point out the facts and have our own opinions, and then we have fun with it too. We make some jokes, scratch some jokes, and it is a good time. I look forward to it. Sometimes podcasts, I know that it's a responsibility because I have a podcast, and there's times like today where I just poured 30 yards of concrete, my back's killing me. I'm like, oh, that podcast, I hadn't prepared for it enough, but it's like an obligation almost, but it's what I want to do anyway. I chose to do it. But The Pulse is great. And most of my podcasts, 99.9%, I want to go on and talk to people. But there are those days where it's like, oh man, I wish I could skip tonight. Can I go on late? My producer's like, no, you can't be 5 minutes late. I'm like, damn it.
It's good. I know. Listen, I don't have a producer, so I'm here. I'm the producer, and if I have that feeling, I have to be that voice in my head, and that you have the other Damon for. Thank God you have it, right? Because it is hard. It's like any job. Even if you love it, some days you're just you're.
Yeah, no, but I'm open and honest with
you.
I'll tell you the truth. I don't like getting up and going to work every day. I want to sleep in, but I have to. But this isn't something I have to do. It's a passion of mine, and I think people need to hear news. And there are some times it's like, I just want to take time off. I'm like, yeah, no, I have an obligation. I told people I'm going to be on.
Right.
Be there.
And then once you get going, it's
yeah, again, and it all goes away. But
yeah, it's because this is a lot of fun. I never thought this was going to be my life, and I'm grateful. It's a lot of fun.
But All right, Lane. Well, thank you for coming on tonight. And I just want to let everybody know that we just talked about the Pulse Wednesdays at 8 p.m. My podcasts are Mondays and Fridays. Mondays starting at 8 p.m. Friday, 8 p.m. Like I said before, my radio show airs. I come on at 9. Then we have the Pulse on Wednesday nights with all the podcasters and guests. And then we have Alexander Levine from Alexander Levine Live, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8 p.m. And then we have Seth Eisenberg, Conservative Corners, Sundays at 7 p.m. And we are expanding further and further, and we want to meet new people. You can go on our website, americaspulsenetwork.com. And if you want to be a podcaster, then fill out the application, because our goal is to get people from around the country, every state, be a podcaster and have their voices heard. And so that's what we're about. So, Elena, again, thank you very much for asking me to come on your podcast. Thank you for joining my show tonight, and looking forward to Wednesday with the Pulse, looking forward to Seth's show Sunday, Alexander's Tuesday, all that good stuff. So let's just keep getting the word out there, talking to people, but stay positive, at least for this weekend.
Or at least for tonight. Yeah. All right.
All right. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
America's Pulse Network. The mainstream media is bought and paid for. The truth is twisted to fit their agenda. But America is waking up, because podcasts are the future for trusted media. Welcome to the America's Pulse Network. It is a network built by patriots that upholds the Constitution. The America's Pulse Network stands for God, truth, and the America First movement. There is no corporate propaganda, no government spin, just real news, real talk, and real voices fighting for faith, freedom, and the future of this great nation with common sense. Here are some of America's Pulse Network podcasts. Alexandra Levine Live, hosted by Alexandra Levine. Jersey Shore Podcast, hosted by Damon Galdo. The Conservative Corner, hosted by Seth Eisenberg. APN's The Pulse, hosted by Alexandra, Damon, and Seth. So tune into America's Pulse Network on the following social media platforms: X/Twitter, Rumble, Truth Social, Facebook, and YouTube. Join the revolution, because the pulse of America beats for God and country. America's Pulse Network is for faith, family, freedom, and truth.
Righteous pride in this one big voice, it's our time. Generation fighters take the stand. From shore to shore we reclaim the land.